Most men operate under the dangerous assumption that they can spot a high-risk, promiscuous, or emotionally unstable woman from a mile away. We are conditioned by media and basic evolutionary instincts to look for the loud, obvious red flags, the provocative outfits, the aggressive attitude, the chaotic lifestyle, or the blatant attention-seeking behavior. But the truth of human psychology is far colder and much more predatory. The individuals who possess the capacity to inflict the deepest, most permanent emotional damage rarely look like the threat you are actively scanning for. Instead, they look like safety. They appear sweet, soft, fragile, and uniquely understanding. They look like the exact shelter you've been searching for, and that aesthetic package is precisely how they slip past your natural defenses, bypass your logical filters, and drop your guard. Everything changes the moment you stop looking at the aesthetic surface and begin decoding the cold, hard psychology behind their operational patterns. Underneath the initial charm, the intense eye contact, and the intoxicating warmth is a predictable sequence of behaviors that forecast instability, impulsivity, and emotional chaos with painful mathematical accuracy. When you lack this psychological framework, your mind plays tricks on you. You will mistake a woman's deep-seated emotional dysfunction for a profound spiritual connection. You will mistake her intense infatuation for rare chemistry, and you will mistake her chaotic life history for a series of tragic, unpreventable misfortunes. Let us cut completely through the illusion. You have likely trusted the wrong woman before. If you look back honestly, it did not happen because you were naive or unintelligent. It happened because you were inherently hopeful. You were operating on a scarcity mindset or a deep desire to build something meaningful, which caused you to consciously ignore small inconsistencies, believe highly convenient stories, dismiss your own gut intuition, and ultimately pay the price with your time, your mental energy, and your self-respect. Men do not fall into these traps because they are weak. They fall because they desperately want to believe someone is who they pretend to be during the honeymoon phase. This expanded breakdown is designed to provide the absolute clarity you never had when it mattered most, pulling back the curtain on the 9 powerful, interlocking behavioral patterns that reveal exactly who you are dealing with long before she breaks your trust. A woman's past history does not just expose her flaws, it serves as an absolute, unchanging map of her behavioral patterns. When a woman discusses her relationship history and systematically removes herself from any shred of accountability, you are no longer listening to a regular memory. You are listening to an active psychological warning system. A person who refuses to own her choices is fundamentally terrified of self-reflection. She is not afraid of being wrong. She is only terrified of the social and emotional consequences of being caught. When you sit across from a woman with this pattern, her narrative follows a highly rigid script. You will hear variations of the exact same theme. Every single ex-boyfriend was abusive, narcissistic, or clinically crazy. He didn't appreciate her, he neglected her, or his poor behavior directly pushed her to cheat. In her worldview, there is an endless parade of villains, and she is the eternal, faultless victim. The core danger here isn't the past mistakes themselves. Human beings are inherently flawed, and people make genuine errors in judgment. The true danger is when rewriting history becomes her primary survival strategy. It is a psychological tool she deploys to shift blame away from her own actions so she can protect the pristine, innocent image she needs you to buy into. A woman who avoids personal responsibility will always choose immediate excitement over long-term stability, sudden impulse over core integrity, and tactical escape over painful honesty. She lives in an insulated psychological bubble where the consequences of reality simply do not apply to her. She believes she is always one brilliant explanation, one shifting excuse, or one tears-on-command emotional performance away from entirely rewriting historical truth. To her, the past is highly elastic. It bends, stretches, and warps to accommodate whatever narrative keeps her desirable, unaccountable, and completely innocent in the eyes of her current target. Listen with extreme precision, not to the surface drama or the tears, but to the structural pattern of her stories. If she can retell a lifetime of betrayal, broken commitments, and fractured friendships as a series of cruel things done entirely to her, you must recognize what that means for your future. Right now, during the early stages, you are the hero who finally understands her. You are the protector she has been waiting for. But the moment the initial rush wears off, the math dictates that you will transition. One day, you will no longer be the man she trusted. You will simply become the next villain she blames to her next audience. If she can rewrite her past that easily, she can and will rewrite her present with you. A human being's relationship history is never random. It is a profound clinical indicator of how they handle stress, how they self-soothe, and how they actively avoid confronting their own internal emptiness. When a woman possesses a long, unbroken trail of one-night stands, short-lived summer flings, or spontaneous, it just happened, physical encounters, it reveals something infinitely deeper than her sexual preferences or liberation. It exposes her foundational relationship with novelty and her profound inability to tolerate emotional depth. A deeply ingrained pattern of impulsive physical intimacy is almost never about a high libido or genuine sexual desire. Psychologically, it is a form of rapid escape. It is about aggressively chasing the immediate, intense dopamine spike that accompanies a new physical conquest in order to successfully drown out underlying boredom, chronic loneliness, deep-seated insecurity, or adult responsibility. This archetype of woman bonds with terrifying speed. She will tell you she loves you within days or act as if you are soulmates within hours. This happens because bonding slowly and methodically requires real vulnerability, something she is terrified to feel and something she simply does not possess the emotional maturity to build. Countless men fall directly into this psychological trap every single day. A highly attractive woman with this exact history looks at them with intense, undivided focus, and the man's ego immediately takes over. He thinks to himself, "She has a wild past, but she chose me because I am different. I am the high-value man who can tame her." This is a massive ego-driven delusion. She did not choose you because you were uniquely special. She chose you because your presence was available at the exact biological moment she required a powerful emotional distraction. The faster an unstable person attaches to you, the faster they will detach from you. The rapid attachment was never about a real connection to your character. It was about utilizing you as an emotional drug to achieve a temporary high. Pay close attention to the specific ways she discusses this history. Does she laugh off past chaotic nights as harmless fun? Does she openly brag about how wild she used to be, treating her past like a badge of honor? Or does she gloss over massive, glaring gaps in her timeline as if they mean absolutely nothing? Both behavioral extremes tell the exact same psychological story. She has resolved nothing, she has processed nothing, and she has grown past none of it. She has merely repackaged her chaos into a more palatable format for the current season. If her past is an anonymous blur of faces, never assume your face will be the one she suddenly decides to remember. A woman who treats human intimacy like an unpredictable impulse will never treat your relationship like a sovereign commitment. A woman who chooses her partners slowly and deliberately is a woman who possesses the capacity to love deeply and consistently. Conversely, a woman who selects her partners rapidly and impulsively is a woman who loves temporarily. When you observe a woman who continuously jumps from man to man, transitioning from a serious relationship to a situationship to a new official boyfriend with barely a week to breathe in between, you are not witnessing a hopeless romantic in search of true love. You are witnessing severe emotional instability disguised as modern independence and romantic freedom. She does not select men based on core compatibility, structural integrity, long-term visions, or shared moral values. She operates entirely as a biological addict, choosing her next partner based on the initial chemical rush, the validation of the chase, and the intoxicating feeling of being intensely wanted all over again. The moment that initial rush inevitably begins to fade, the exact moment a relationship transitions out of the honeymoon phase and demands boring consistency, emotional labor, and everyday stability, she completely checks out. She disappears emotionally or physically, not because you failed her as a man, but because actual stability bores her to her core. She is addicted to the starting line of a relationship, but completely incapable of running the marathon. This specific personality type utilizes human connection the exact same way a chronic workaholic uses caffeine, a temporary external stimulant required to feel awake, validated, and alive for a brief moment. Then, the moment the biological effect wears off and reality sets in, she immediately discards the vessel and replaces it with a fresh source. She cannot comprehend the concept of long-term emotional investment because she has never possessed the discipline to stay in one place long enough to build roots. For stable, established men who are entering mature stages of life, men who have built careers, found internal clarity, and actively value peace over unneeded chaos, this woman represents a financial, mental, and emotional catastrophe. You look at her and see a beautiful woman who needs love. She looks at you and sees a reliable stabilizer. You become the safe, secure anchor she heavily leans on, utilizing your resources, your emotional grounding, and your stability until she has successfully rebuilt her strength. The exact moment she feels strong and secure again, she will use your stability as a platform to leap toward her next thrill. Look at the data points of her life history. A nonstop string of relationships that lasted a few weeks or months, sudden breakups that just happened out of nowhere, and a massive list of rootless situationships. Commitment requires profound patience, and patience requires psychological maturity. Never ignore this historical reality. A woman who treats relationships like passing seasons will inevitably treat you like temporary weather, something to enjoy when the sun is shining, and immediately abandon the moment a storm rolls in. When a woman aggressively forces intimacy and heavy sexual topics into the conversation during the initial stages of dating, long before she has demonstrated any form of genuine emotional transparency, she is not being refreshing, bold, or highly liberated. She is executing a highly effective psychological smokescreen. Early, intense sexual talk is rarely an organic expression of high attraction. It is a tactical strategy. It is designed to artificially rush the timeline of the connection, completely fog your masculine analytical instincts, and make you feel deeply chosen and validated before you have even taken the formal time to assess who she is as a human being. This behavior must never be confused with healthy, playful flirting. Healthy flirting is light, mutual, evolutionary, and designed to build a natural bridge of attraction over time. What this archetype is executing is highly targeted, intensely accelerated, and structurally weaponized. It is engineered to completely bypass the slow, methodical, and often uncomfortable unfolding of real trust. By jumping straight into intense physical dialogue, she forces an illusion of profound closeness without having to earn a single fraction of it through character, loyalty, or time. She understands the precise mechanics of how the male brain operates under the influence of sudden sexual validation. She specifically targets men who have gone through dry spells, men who are lonely, or men who have gone far too long without feeling desired by an attractive woman. Imagine the exact setting. You are on a first or second date, sitting across from her in a restaurant. Suddenly, without any natural transition, the conversation takes a sharp turn. She leans forward, lowers her vocal tone, alters her eye contact, and begins sharing deep fantasies, explicit past experiences, and highly intimate secrets. Your ego immediately tells you that you are a genetic mastermind, that she is letting you into her private world because you are uniquely captivating. The reality is much more clinical. This is a highly rehearsed performance. She has said the exact same words, used the same vocal inflections, and shared the same secrets with numerous men before you. She knows that by throwing a man into a state of intense sexual anticipation, his logical brain goes completely offline. When physical intimacy outpaces actual compatibility, you stop evaluating her character flaws and instead start obsessively chasing the connection. That is the entire point of the strategy. Ask yourself this critical question. If a woman uses intense chaos and rapid pacing as her entry point into your life, what kind of weapon will she use as her exit? When physical intensity comes before character evaluation, someone is hiding a profound structural deficit. There is absolutely nothing inherently immoral or wrong with two consenting adults acting swiftly on intense mutual chemistry. However, as an analytical man, you are not here to judge a single isolated night. You are here to evaluate a broader psychological pattern. When a woman makes physical intimacy instant, completely automatic, and seemingly reflexive on the very first interaction, you must look directly past the pleasure and analyze what that behavior reveals about her internal programming. More often than not, immediate, unearned physical intimacy signals a profound deficit in low impulse control, combined with high levels of emotional projection. A woman who repeatedly engages in rapid physical bonding is not actively choosing you based on your character, your strength, or your values. She is choosing rapid biological relief. She is seeking immediate relief from the suffocating weight of her own internal boredom, her chronic loneliness, or those quiet, terrifying spaces in her life where the music stops and she is forced to look at her own reflection. When immediate physical intimacy becomes her primary shortcut to bypass the dating process, real emotional clarity becomes entirely optional. She isn't building a relationship with you. She is running away from herself, using your body and your attention as the vehicle for her escape. From a neurological standpoint, this behavior indicates a person who heavily mistakes intense infatuation for genuine long-term alignment. She convinces herself that this feels so right because she is entirely addicted to the hormonal cocktail of the chase, rather than the reality of the actual human being standing in front of her. Men fall victim to this specific illusion every day because it heavily flatters their masculinity. They think they have stumbled into a movie-like romance, a fate-driven connection that defied the rules of time. But if you step back, you will see it is merely a loop she has repeated with dozens of men without ever breaking the chain. You must ask yourself the hard, logical question. If she required absolutely no time, no boundaries, and no evaluation to grant you full access to her most intimate self, what logic makes you believe she will require time, boundaries, or reflection to completely abandon you? The real test of character never occurs during the peak excitement of night one. It occurs in the cold light of day during the weeks that follow. Does she match her physical intensity with a genuine curiosity about your mindset, your values, and your life? Or does she rely entirely on the sexual dynamic to carry the weight of the connection? Patterns do not lie, provided you do not allow a temporary hit of dopamine to completely blind your analytical eyes. True, organic self-confidence and desperate validation-seeking behavior look remarkably identical when viewed from a distance. However, the moment you zoom in and analyze them up close, the difference is incredibly sharp. A truly confident woman is psychologically grounded. She possesses a deep, quiet awareness of her own value, her own beauty, and her own mind. Because she is internally validated, she has absolutely no requirement for the entire world to clap every single time she walks into a room or posts an update. A validation-driven woman, however, is trapped in a state of nonstop performance art. Absolutely everything she does, says, wears, and projects is calculated to provoke an immediate external reaction. The hyper-specific outfit, the curated attitude, the provocative body language, and the social energy she broadcasts into a room are not genuine forms of self-expression. They are deliberate signals. They are silent, desperate requests for constant male attention. When a woman genuinely does not care about the superficial opinions of the crowd, her physical presence is calm, steady, self-contained, and non-reactive. But when a woman constantly vocalizes the phrase, "I don't care what anyone thinks about me," while simultaneously executing behaviors that are explicitly designed to provoke attention, she is telling a massive lie. What she truly does not care about is her own long-term integrity. She only cares about the immediate high of the spotlight. This relentless pursuit of attention creates a toxic psychological loop. Attention leads to temporary validation, which creates a brief spike in self-worth, which quickly fades, demanding a larger dose of attention to repeat the cycle. For an everyday man, this pattern is incredibly dangerous because it initially feels highly magnetic. You look at her and think she is bold, liberated, fiercely independent, and unfiltered. But behind that carefully constructed I don't care persona lies a dark, tragic reality. She requires the constant validation of the world's eyes just to prove to herself that she actually exists. When a woman's internal identity is built entirely on the applause of the crowd, the undivided attention of one good man will never, under any circumstances, be enough to satisfy her hunger. It is not necessarily because she is consciously malicious or evil. It is because she is an addict, and one man cannot outvote the roar of an entire stadium. Watch her closely when she believes no one is looking. If her confidence is a performance, her loyalty to you will be a performance too. A partner's wardrobe choices and digital footprint are active forms of communication. They reveal whether someone views themselves as a committed partner or as a product, positioning themselves on the open romantic marketplace. When a woman selectively adopts a highly provocative aesthetic only in environments with high male attention, like specific nights out or girls' trips, she is signaling that she still wants to be pursued. This behavior stems from a reliance on external validation to maintain self-esteem. The digital version of this behavior is even more telling. Curating suggestive photos and strategic thirst traps on social media is a form of personal branding designed to maximize outside desire. When she consistently excludes you from her digital frame to look entirely single, it is because she wants the world to treat her that way. You cannot claim absolute real-world exclusivity while actively marketing digital availability. One intention completely cancels out the other. If her online presence has no visible room for you, she is keeping her options open for the future while using you to fill a current slot. A partner's loyalty is never measured when you are alone. It is measured when other people enter the room. If she visibly lights up the moment outside male attention is available, you are witnessing an active boundary test. She is measuring your tolerance to see how far she can push the dynamic without losing you. This attention hunting manifests in two distinct ways. The first is overt flirting, which includes obvious actions like touching other men, leaning into their physical space, or laughing excessively at a stranger's jokes while checking your reaction. The second is covert attention seeking, characterized by highly deniable microbehaviors like prolonged eye contact across a room, intentionally staying in another man's line of sight, soft smiles, or frequent hair touches. These actions prove that your validation alone is not enough to satisfy her hunger for attention. She remains addicted to the feeling of being wanted by the masses rather than being chosen by one person. People do not test boundaries because they want you to get jealous. They test them to measure your level of self-respect. A man who quietly accepts public disrespect teaches a partner exactly how to mistreat him in private. If she is busy maintaining an audience in front of your face, she is simply unready to build a real relationship behind closed doors. A smartphone does not merely hold text messages. It holds secrets, habits, and the hidden version of a person they do not want you to meet. When a partner becomes hyperprotective of their device, flipping it face down, angling the screen away, or panicking at notifications, you are looking at digital distance. There is a massive psychological difference between privacy and secrecy. Privacy is when a person has nothing to hide, but simply values personal space. Secrecy, however, is when a person is actively hiding information because they know the truth will destroy the relationship. You have likely felt that sudden gut feeling telling you something is wrong. They may be physically present, but their energy shifts completely the moment their phone lights up or they step outside to take a quick call. When questioned, they will often deflect and claim you are being paranoid or controlling. Your intuition is not guessing. It is recognizing a toxic pattern of inconsistencies that your mind has not fully accepted yet. A partner who guards their phone more than they guard your emotional peace of mind is protecting their backup options and deleted conversations. Digital secrecy is never an accident. It is a calculated reflection of emotional dishonesty. When you step back, take your emotions completely out of the equation, and look at all 9 of these behavioral signs objectively, a profound psychological truth becomes clear. No single behavior viewed in total isolation defines a woman's entire soul. A revealing outfit does not automatically make her promiscuous. A single guarded moment with a phone does not guarantee an ongoing betrayal. A rapid connection on one occasion does not automatically mean she is completely unstable. But when these distinct behaviors begin to stack, repeat, and echo across different weeks, months, and environments, you are no longer dealing with an innocent string of coincidences. You are looking directly at a behavioral blueprint. Men do not lose their minds, their fortunes, and their self-respect because they simply happen to meet a bad woman. They lose themselves because they consciously choose to reject the reality standing directly in front of their eyes. They fall in love with potential. They hope against all logic that she will suddenly change for them. They hope her chaotic past won't repeat itself, and they arrogantly believe that their love will make them the grand exception to her lifelong rule. But hope is not a strategy, and it provides absolutely zero protection in the real world. A mature, grounded man does not fear a woman simply because she has a history. He fears a woman who has learned absolutely nothing from her history. He avoids a woman who is still entirely driven by basic impulse, still relentlessly chasing outside validation, and still aggressively guarding hidden parts of her life from the man who loves her. He avoids a woman whose historical patterns speak infinitely louder than her current verbal promises. As you move forward in the modern dating landscape, print this rule into your mind. Do not look for beautiful words, intense infatuation, or romantic promises. Look for consistency. Consistency is the only metric that reveals true self-awareness, genuine psychological maturity, and an actual readiness to build something real. The more you honor your own value, enforce your boundaries, and remain completely unafraid to walk away from chaos, the harder it becomes for anyone to ever take advantage of your heart. Stay smart, stay completely grounded, and choose better.